welcome to ESI For All, an Esports Insider podcast where we aim to shine a light on the diverse people and organizations that make up the esports community. I'm your host for today. I'm Becky Wright. I work at NSE. I'm the Senior Partnerships Manager. And with me, I've got the amazing Heather Dower, founder and CEO of Hotdrop. Hi, Heather.
Hey, it's so good to be on another kind of chat with you about a topic that I think we're both quite passionate about, actually.
Yeah, because we were on one actually not too long ago, and we're going to be covering hiring diverse talent and workplace culture, which, I think is something we're both interested in.
Definitely.
And you as a business owner is something very, very true to kind of your heart, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a core focus. I feel like a lot of responsibility on my shoulders to feel like I'm being... but that hasn't been the reasons why we've done things. It's been from the heart and from experience and from feedback and learning as well, mistakes, which is really crucial. So it's been quite daunting, kind of being one of the people that people may look closely at. I wouldn't say look closely at, but it's a very important topic that we need to keep driving home in workplace and in the sector, I think.
Yeah. Also, I would say look up to. There's
thanks.
many, and I look up to you as well, as you know. I think you're a very influential person in the industry. So,
As are you,
and I'm sure
so...
that's. Oh, thanks. So, for those who don't know you, please tell us a little bit about yourself and Hotdrop.
Well, they're very lucky if they don't know me, because they probably still have their sanity intact and not met me at an event. I know who I am. I'm the founder and CEO of Hotdrop, a creative marketing agency. We are focused in the digital landscape. I think it's really important to understand that we approach video games and esports and the digital lifestyle separately as their own kind of categories and industries and sectors, but they all do blend. That's where we're at with culture these days, is that they have huge significant crossover and influence to each other. And that's what we focus on at Hotdrop. So we work with food and beverage, brick and mortar, game studios, software, direct to consumer products, technology. It sounds like we do everything, and it sounds like then we do a poor job, but we have the best team, which obviously we'll go into hiring. We have the best team that cover content, production, social media, 3D, building, virtual studios for broadcast. It's pretty significant, and I've had quite a long history in esports and gaming as well, which I think lends itself to this type of company. But I was never agency side. I've never been agency side, so I don't know what possessed me to then suddenly enter the agency world, to be honest. I'll be quite frank with you. It is a whole different behemoth out there being agency side.
Because you were in-house before, weren't you? Because you were at ESL for quite a while. But whilst we're talking about kind of like those early days pre-Hotdrop, how did you originally get involved in the scene?
Yeah, I think I had what was probably back then deemed a very traditional route into the scene and working full time. I think when you look at the education system, you are almost, particularly in the UK for international listeners, you are very from an early age expected to kind of decide what sector you're in, career and kind of almost job occupation. Oh my god, I can't say that word. That you're meant to take up, and that's so linear sometimes that really I think that shapes people too much. So I always had a creative side. I did science at school and all that, but from a really, really young age. I think I had a PC from the age of 7, and I was PC gaming. We had a steering wheel for Revolut, knew all the cheat codes to get the best cars, and I just loved gaming. It was something that I was able to, as quite a shy girl, actually make friends with on the playground, to talk about video games and such, but I never studied anything creative or business related at school, actually. So I found that as a hobby, as everyone might want to love sport or anything. I loved sport and I competed, but ultimately I was making back then window movie maker reels of gameplay that I've captured with my friends when I was aged 11. That was before COD movies came out and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
I always had a knack and a flair for it, but I never thought I'd have a job. I always thought I was going to be an electrical engineer. So I mean, fast forward all this gaming and everything, I just found my people at university, built a new PC with my student loan. My friend gave me a key for XSplit back in 2011, and I just went streaming World of Warcraft. I never looked back really. So from all of that, I was like, I never still thought, even maybe 6 years ago, this would be a job that pays a salary, let alone a mortgage and all that. But I worked on making a brand, which is still really important, even more so now. And did Twitch streaming. And then for some reason, I don't like being in front of the camera, Becky. I don't know why this whole like first sort of 6-7 years I was in front of the camera. I'm a voice for radio, not
Yeah.
I'm not a camera person. But that was where the opportunities were. If you wanted to progress and prove yourself back then, you had to be in the camera. You had to be a commentator, stage host. So I did that. Had opportunities locally at iSeries, Epic LAN. Had my own TV show, the world's first daily live news esports show in 55 countries. That felt
awesome.
cringe back then, but I'm really proud of it now.
Yeah.
And then I moved to ESL. Did I know anything about marketing? A little bit. As a what you want to call an influencer, probably back then I dealt with press releases and embargoes. But yeah, it was quite a traditional route back there. I really appreciate that is not normally a route that I would recommend these days. But it's certainly one that exposed me to every asset and facet of the industry to get me to where I am now. So yeah, I don't know, in a very long-winded way, I played video games, I made content, and people seemed to like it and enjoy it, and that continued. And I'm extremely lucky and privileged to be in the position and have that journey that I had, because it seems quite straightforward.
Yeah. And looking at that journey, one thing that isn't really kind of spoken about is, I guess, transitioning from those earlier roles that you did have then into running your own business with Hotdrop. Like, what was that process like, and what have you kind of learned along the way into that, running your own company and being a business owner?
Yeah, I think I'm a high achiever. I think a lot of us in the industry are high achievers, right?
Yeah.
Like, you have to be, because the pace and the constant change. So you've got to be hungry all the time. So I think I just had a desire to understand how things work, and why they work. What's the why and the how, and can I challenge that? And being in this industry where it is a little bit more startup still, and you are expected in some cases to wear many hats, I think that really gave me years of experience in such short stints. Have I ever studied business studies? No. Did I ever study marketing? No. But I feel like a level of real life jobs, which, Becky, I know you've also what we call real life jobs. We've gone and worked in other sectors prior to this, right? It wasn't just come out of education and go straight into a sector that we love, because that rarely even happens in sport. That really,
exactly.
The career path line is that you have to go work a few other jobs and cut your teeth and slowly integrate into that sector that you want to work for. So ESL was definitely baptism by fire. I think I was in, and within 2 weeks I was organising IEM viewing parties with Cineworld up and down the country, and also organising a massive conference with Anna, who now runs Story Mob, flown out within like less than 12 hours notice to come out and help support that. So I was really thrown into the fires and forged by it.
And you were saying about, people having to wear kind of many hats. Like, what was the rest of the team like? Was it quite a small team? Because I also think esports runs on tiny teams, or it seems to. So you're kind of having to just jump in wherever you can, giving us a lot of experience, which is great. But really,
and is it the right experience or is it the wrong experience? So that's what you got to start looking and reflecting back on, which is something I certainly did at Hotdrop. And I think, yes, when you're small teams, you need process in place, and you need really good communication, and you need to be really self-aware. But I think a lot of environments that are startup, I'm not just putting the finger on esports and video games, is you are small teams, so you do wear many hats, but you forget the core fundamentals of success, which is communication. And so I was a team of one when I joined ESL. ESL UK had no marketing prior to that, and they've been around for quite a few years actually, and been doing quite a stellar job. So I was a team of one. I managed to bring in a social media manager who was freelancing, brought him in as an FTE, and got the blessing there to do that. And then then we had Susanna Z. She came and joined. So we didn't expand hugely, and people didn't really understand the purpose of us either. And then the head of creative left, and I absorbed the creative team as well. And sort of that made sense because everything that we're making is a marketing purpose. It's either for broadcast or social, so there was far more synergy. But teams are small, and they always are small, and particularly as a business you have to be very lean, but that's something that we make sure that we manage workloads, but I'm sure we'll get into that. But I mean, like yourself, right, it's a small team, but you've got to be efficient and not work 85% to 90% in priority, otherwise actually stuff isn't done to the best and you don't feel good about your work either. So
100%. And something you just kind of touched on there is early on in your Hotdrop journey, you did hire that head of people operations lead. Was that kind of like to combat this culture, I guess, of wearing many hats and teams working to full capacity and it being quite stressful? These types of roles you don't really see in the earlier stage of building businesses. Maybe you see it once the business is really established, like quite a few years down the line, but you could have brought that on early. So tell us a bit about that hire and why that was important to you.
So from the start we've done everything right, or tried to do everything right. We're not perfect, and allude to that, but from day one we had a HR software. And we had 3 employees where they could book holiday. They understood how to book holiday. They understood, how they could track toil if they did accrue toil. And so these were things that weren't implemented in other workplaces ever, or when the businesses had scaled to such a large number. And it's really hard to retrofit solutions. You need to be creating solutions and process to marry the size of the business and where you're heading and where you want to go. And I think a lack of forward thinking is the biggest downfall for a lot of SMEs in any sector. And so, you're right. A head of people is an unheard P&L addition. But I think I wanted to lead by example on this, that I can't wear loads of hats either. And I'm not going to have the bandwidth to be the best HR resource. But if I'm wanting to practice what I preach, I need to bring in and show the team that if we have a workload and capacity problem and I can foresee it and predict it, I'm going to be proactive, not reactive. And that opens up a really good, healthy dialogue with the rest of the team across their departments, what they're delivering on. We don't like crunch, and certainly to fulfill staff handbooks and staff policies and staff process and project management and initiatives and training, you have to bring someone in. That's a full-time role. But it's so scary. It is so scary because you're like, is this going to benefit? Well, of course, it's so much more efficient and incredible for the business journey if you're retaining talent than losing talent because of one role. It's just a no-brainer. But it was scary. I thought about it for months, but and kind of put it off. But I just thought, you know what? Sometimes you got to bite the bullet and give it a go, and that's the joy of an SME.
Yeah. And how big is the team now at Hotdrop?
Yeah, it keeps growing. We are now, I think, officially 16 FTEs, full-time employees. Our head of people is actually on maternity leave. So that was really, really kind of sort of like, oh, we definitely need to look at our maternity policies and then put them into action, which was actually quite rewarding. But that's 2 less than we last spoke, but they have left and we're hiring and actually going to be putting out lots of new roles, sort of 4 or 5 roles at least in the next couple of weeks. Awesome. I envision we're probably going to be another 7 on top of what our 16 is by the end of the year. Every time I say that though, it usually is double that. So I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm going to hire 2. We end up hiring like 6. But we're doing it slowly. I could just click fingers and hire another 15 people, but that is not a sensible way for us to expand. So
Yeah.
everything's in a fine equilibrium balance at the moment.
Yeah, because you find there's also, you see it, don't you? There's growing pains of expanding way too quickly, and yeah, it's I guess it must be a really difficult thing for you to balance.
That's it. And if we've not got that, if we've not hit the nail on the head with the process, or we've implemented a new HR software recently, if I'm not focused on getting that right with who we've got in the team, others are just going to fall behind and be dissatisfied. And we need to make sure onboarding. We've always had stellar onboarding.
Yeah.
I think we've had stellar onboarding because there's been such poor onboarding across the board elsewhere. But everything is sent ahead of time. Expectations for week 1, week 2, month 1, month 3. We lay that out, so we're all starting on the same page.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can't. You've got to sort and have order before you bring other people in.
Yeah, of course. And kind of slightly pivoting off this question, as esports is such a passion industry, and everyone kind of involved in it, they are a gamer, they play esports. I think, well, most of it, I'd say for the most part, most people have an interest and a passion for esports and gaming when they decide to work in this industry. And so as esports continues to professionalize, that tightrope balance between work and pleasure is sometimes difficult.
Yeah.
People experience a lot of burnout. They become less passionate about the hobby that got them into the industry in the first place. So it's probably a very difficult question, but as a business owner, how do you tackle that?
Yeah, so I think first and foremost, like we look to hire people in roles that don't necessarily also come from that sector. So our head of people came from traditional bank, HR, and such, but wanted the challenge to see where you could marry up traditional with forward thinking HR, and that's perfect for us. So the, and also we don't just apply initiatives for the sake of initiatives. So we're looking at mental health days. We're looking at training around that. We're looking at ways that we could do training that isn't just game specific, because otherwise you get fatigue from that. So we've actually created our own initiatives called Hot Jams, and we make fun briefs maybe based on films and such that upskill but aren't focused on gaming IP and such. So it actually then benefits us further down the line. So we do try and step away. We're also, from day one, we've been really strict on 5:30 is finish. Communicate as to why something didn't get done, because there's probably maybe a lack of process, which is fantastic. We can fix that. But also weekends very rarely. And we set that expectation with clients as well. So there needs to be that boundary, because if you're, particularly in creative work, if you're not resting in being inspired and enjoying other stuff in life, traveling, watching movies, then you're not going to be your best creative self. So it was a mantra that I brought in from day one. I was like, first of all, I used to work 9 till 6. We're doing 9 till 5:30. That made all the difference. And we've looked at other initiatives, like, is it a 4-day week, or is it, they can finish early on Thursdays because there's late night shopping, and actually they can run errands, so it frees up their weekends more. So we're constantly exploring, but until we feel something's right, we won't implement it. Otherwise it just seems slapdash, and it's like, oh great, you have all these initiatives, but they don't actually benefit anyone. And that's, I think, really key.
Yeah. And I think that's awesome to hear. And it sounds like you're approaching it from the right way, because I think certain businesses, none that I've worked for, but you hear about it in the industry, they can take advantage of that passion that people have, and they'll end up working really long hours for low pay, and even like internships, like the internship culture, they bring on people for free, get them to do a bunch of work because they're so passionate and they want to work in the industry so badly.
It's fun. Internships is something that the guys have asked us about at Hotdrop, and I really want to do it, but I want to do it right, and I just don't have enough resources or tools. And I'm not saying free interns, I'm talking paid interns, but we're also a living wage payer. And something that we did from day one as well was ensure everyone was on living wage. And so, I'm really interested in doing the intern and create opportunity, because we know experience is sacred. But I want to do it right, so I won't do it unless I know how to do it correctly, and I don't feel like I know, or if anyone is doing intern stuff, they're not talking about it, so I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, maybe we should speak about it more because we do an internship
Yeah.
program. We bring on people like for 3 months, 3 times a year, paid
Amazing.
internships and stuff like that. But we thought about it for quite a long time before it, and we kind of trialed it a little bit over the summer and stuff like that. So it does take a bit of time, I think, to work it out. But yeah, it's good if you can do it. And I
It
think
sounds rewarding for you guys.
yeah, it is. I think it has to be rewarding for both
Of
parties.
course, yeah.
Like it's rewarding for us, and we put a massive focus on making sure that the student or recent graduate, or maybe they haven't been to university at all. It's usually our internships are open to anyone,
Amazing.
and they have to get enough out of the internship as well for it to be like a two-way street. It has
And
to.
that's also something like capacity and bandwidth. I just want to make sure that they're actually going to have enough support.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So again,
of
it's like
course.
we've got to do everything right, have everything in place.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's about, I really, really, Hotdrop's about everyone creating their own opportunity and destiny, and something that we focus on in appraisals as well. It's like, what do they want out of this? What do they want to succeed in the next 6 months? And we put stuff in place for them to do that. It doesn't have to always be what exactly a business objective. That's not realistic.
Yeah. So we've seen in recent years some more negative headlines when it comes to company culture and gender split in the esports business. So how do you approach hiring and retaining diverse talent? I mean, you spoke about retaining kind of with the hiring the head of people operations lead, but in terms when you're coming to hiring, how does your thought process work there?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I've hired for loads of roles before, like in retail and everything, and there's usually quite a strict criteria. Admittedly, I do it like sort of 90% based on gut. I know the company so well, and I like to think I know each individual in the business to an appropriate level that doesn't cross any boundaries. That I understand how, from just talking to those people, what little things might irk the other team, so I can stamp that out straight away, and vice versa. What could the team that already pre-exist do that might cause some process issues or such? So we really struggle, I think, to find appropriate candidates in the first place. There is a plethora of the same kind of group of people applying for roles for whatever reason, but I still don't think there's enough signposting and visibility on that there are actually jobs in the sector and that people can move over that, and of sort of varying degrees of individuals and experience and backgrounds. And we really struggle with the candidate process. So I mean, primarily a lot of it is based off word of mouth and recommendation to begin with, but we do go through the traditional interview process and job application. But when we're interviewing, we have a couple of traditional interview questions, but rather than sort of like, where do you see yourself in 2 years' time? That's just not tangible. If you ask me, where do you see the business in 2 years' time? It's going to be way off what actually it ever reaches. So what's the more immediate? Where's their mindset at? Like, in the next 3 months, what do you want to see yourself achieving if you were in this role with this business, knowing the caliber of our clients? And if they're like, well, I want to travel to 3 different countries and run 3 physical activations, and I go, cool, yeah, we've got that in the pipeline, or okay, that's a great goal for us as well, let's do it. So we do shape the questions, and it's more about sort of them as a person, what influences them, what inspires them, what do they do outside of work, are they in good practice of having that life work balance? That's like something we try to immediately identify as well. So yeah, I think hiring is very still something that we need to improve on. I wouldn't profess that we get back to absolutely everyone. We don't, just because there's a bandwidth issue here. I'm a woman of one, and my amazing head of ops is on mat leave. So we do the best we can, but we're looking to always improve that, and we're making sure we learnt from another ESI panel actually back in Manchester at Host. Amazing feedback from Tash about or Tasha, sorry, ensuring that we don't have hard language, analytical
Mm-hmm.
language on job descriptions. And I was like, oh my God, I did engineering. All my terminology is such hard language. We need more kind of lower barrier to entry to ensure that anyone feels like they can apply for that role. So we're learning. It's a big focus this year as we expand to ensure that we're attracting the most, I'm not going to say best talent, because talent can be developed in-house, but the best candidates that seem hungry. So
yeah, for sure. And I think many other people will resonate with that. Like finding people is hard. I mean, I think we've found that putting out jobs which are entry level you find you get much more candidates applying for it. Finding people that kind of like mid to senior level is difficult. And I'm not sure why that is, but there's just more people trying to get into the industry, I guess, than people actually in it. I'm not sure.
I think it's a confidence thing as well. Like, I was always brought up on the values of, if you think you can do it, apply for it. But I think people still doubt themselves. And sometimes if the progression is not within the business you're at or where you're at currently, like, you do need to look elsewhere to get that progression if they're not having conversations with you. And you can't, if you apply for that entry level role and you've been entry level for 2 years, 3 years, then you're going to get stuck at entry level. You need to show that you're capable and you've got the right mindset. So we really struggle, particularly diverse talent, and particularly women in any of our senior leadership. That's why I was so pleased I found Laura to be our head of people, and had such a traditional background as well. I was just like, yes, this is exactly what this business needs right now. But we're working with everyone in the business as well for senior leadership as well and development. But it is a constant struggle. I know we've talked about it regularly, and I have talked to other business owners, and I don't have the answers, but I hope that we can figure it all out together, and make that better. Overall, make the industry far better as well. So
yeah, I think you're spot on with the doubt. People kind of undervalue what they've learned, and then they think, oh, well, I can't apply for that job. I'm not sure. Anyone listening to this, if you're thinking about going for a job, just apply for it. The company or the person looking through those applications isn't going to go, oh, well, look at them. They're not good enough. I can't believe they've applied. That's not a reaction that you would ever have. It's just, do you have the experience? Maybe you don't. Maybe you're nearly there. And also, people take a punt on people, like you said, that you can develop talent in-house. You can, if they have the right fit and the right vibe, people might go for you and develop you in-house anyway.
I would say, out of all the employees we've had, because we've had a couple of leave and go on to other roles, and that's really awesome for them in other sectors. I mean, our overall staff retention is incredible. But I forgot what point I was going to make. I leant forward and I got too passionate.
Taking a punt on people.
It. Thank you so much. Oh my goodness. How very professional of me. I would say, out of all the people we've had, probably 2 out of all the people we've employed have had direct relevant experience to what they do in their roles. Everyone else, sure, take a punt. I've believed in them. They may have not believed in themselves from the start and had imposter syndrome. We work on that. That's fine. But I've gone, okay, this is the place and the playground and the sandbox, and it's safe. Let's go for it. And giving them the tools and the encouragement, and they are the best of the business internationally right now, let me tell you. So yeah, it's the way to do it.
That's awesome. And do you think creating good company culture plays a factor in attracting diverse talent?
Yeah, I feel like I feel like the word culture is perhaps a new esports authentic, something that is, but it's good, because I think too many years have gone on, and still there is so much work where volunteers are used incorrectly. There are correct ways to onboard volunteers. Epic Land are a good case study of that, as always. I'm sure we'll all preach that. But there is, out of the 10, there are 9 really bad uses of that. The culture is, what does culture mean to Hotdrop? I guess it means that everyone is happy, everyone is communicating, everyone has been effectively delegated to, which means do they understand what they need to achieve? Have they been able to focalize whether they have or haven't done this before? Have they got the right support therefore? And do they know who to talk to and how to get it over the line? And what else do they need to achieve that? Like, that is culture for me, in terms of everyone pulling together. Everyone's got everyone's back. Everyone's willing to say, look, I've never done that before, but let me give it a go. And for us, well, not unfortunately, but culture for us is also, there's more to life than work. We almost say that every day in the business, which is probably madness, hearing a founder and a CEO kind of say that there's more to work, and you're like, no, make money for the business and achieve it. But it's true, there's more to life than work.
Yeah, for
If
sure.
people need to be off, people need to go somewhere, people need the morning off, don't book holiday, because that's not rest. You're doing so, you're running an errand, you need to get something done. So we base it on trust as well, and no one's ever broken that trust, because they know if they get their job done, we're flexible. So that has meant, as I mentioned, staff retention has been incredible. Our staff turnover is one of the best probably in the industry, I'm going to boldly claim. Yeah. I've learned something, being a CEO, it's very lonely at the top, and you don't ever get to talk about your success. And so I'm going to put it out there as a bold claim. We've probably got one of the best staff retentions in the industry, because we've tried, and we listen. We're not perfect, we admit that, but we communicate about when we're going to implement things, what hasn't worked. And that's culture. It's growing together and supporting each other. So yes, it's super important. If you feel like you belong and you have a voice and it's equal, that's what culture is about. So none of this like stupid incentive stuff. I don't know. I'm quite anti it. So
well, wait, what do you mean by that?
Just
incentive stuff? Do you mean like there are some companies who do like retention bonuses and stuff? And
yeah,
stuff like that. Is that what you mean?
Yeah. Your head's got to be in it for the right reasons.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're not getting genuine work done.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah,
and I think everything that you've put into Hotdrop and all this thought, as far as I'm aware, like Hotdrop has like a really, really great opinion within the rest of the industry, and it's admirable to see that you've created and are running a successful business in the esports space. It's super impressive, especially when there aren't many CEOs and senior management staff who are women. So what advice do you have for aspiring esports professionals who wish to kind of follow in your footsteps, whether that's creating a business or getting to the top of their field? What advice do you have?
Be clear about it from the start. I remember being at ESL and telling my boss, sort of in a year's time I want to be marketing director, and when that came about, I said in about a year's time I'm going to be leaving and setting up my own business. So I was really clear about my goals, and there's no shame in that. And I do the same with the team now at Hotdrop. I say this is our goal, whether it's a today goal or a 6-month goal or a 3-year goal. I'm really open and honest about where I want to head and where I'm taking things, because people will buy in. They understand what you're about. So that's have no shame in that. Obviously there's a right and wrong way about going about it. Like you will make me marketing director by X. No, that's what I'm working towards. And this is how I need help here. I have areas that I don't know here. I need more exposure here. So yeah, being really clear and candid about where you want to go, and that changes as well. So being open and honest with yourself, like nothing. I remember I wanted to be sort of an F1 commentator when I was a kid, and I was distraught when I found out that with my speech impediment I was never going to make it. And then the plans change all the time, but as long as you're honest and open with them. Any other advice? You have to be your biggest champion, and it feels cringe and it feels forced, and I'm still trying to learn about it. But just before we hit live, I was talking about how I go to, I don't know what possessed me at this point of leadership, where I thought, well, I just won't face sexism in the workplace anymore because I run my own business, so naturally I'll get respect from outsiders. It's like, no, it's even worse than ever before.
Really?
Like, really have to prove myself now. Like,
gosh,
it really took me by surprise and made it really difficult, particularly because this business was built before the pandemic, but unfortunately has spent a lot of the life in it during the pandemic. So visibility was really hard. but you have to back yourself. And that means when you say, I'm the founder and CEO of Hotdrop, and they go, oh, okay, and then they move on to one of your male colleagues, they go and start asking business sensitive questions. They go, I don't know, talk to my boss. And I have to be like, it's me, I'm the boss. I'm the boss. I'm the boss. I'm backing myself. I am the boss. I'm the boss lady. So, as cringe as it feels, you have to back yourself in every situation. Again, in the correct way, not just like, well, in my opinion, what I say go. That is not leadership in its final, in its form. And I think the last bit of advice is have open dialogue about things, in terms of, like, for instance, if a scenario happens where there's been a bit of sexism in the workplace or at a work event, which still happens to this day. I experienced it even last week. You talk to the colleagues about, like, how did you feel about that? Did that make you uncomfortable as a male colleague of he, him at the company? And how do we agree to go about it to make us both feel comfortable going forward? And actually saying, yeah, that isn't acceptable. Go, no, that isn't acceptable, because it's all a collective job. So open dialogue about scenarios and situations live, and you need to bring those up if you want to go into senior management or anywhere else in the industry. So I know that's a bit probably abstract, but they're quite personal bits of advice to share, really.
Yeah. And no, I think it makes total self. Advocating for yourself is the hardest. It is the hardest part. I'm still rubbish at it. I'm trying to get better, but it's difficult. It's difficult, and I think, I've got a lot to learn in that respect.
We're made to feel like we shouldn't do that, and that we have to. Well, we of course let our work speak for ourselves, but we are a product of our own work, so we have to be really proud of ourselves.
Yeah. We're going to move on to something completely off topic. Do you have anything else you want to say that you haven't had the opportunity to say on this topic yet?
No, I think I've probably bored everyone's ears off. I'm checking though. It's been really great to talk about it, honestly.
Yeah, and I think you've given some really interesting insights. So thank you. So completely off topic. If you were trapped on a desert island and you could only take 3 items with you, what would they be and why?
So what are the rules about this? We didn't set ground rules. Do you know the rules about this?
I don't think I have rules.
So if I was to say, like, a record player and a vinyl, is that too?
I mean, I think
or an album?
I think you could probably like group that together.
Okay.
Maybe. That's going to be the rule. If it's something super related, obviously, if it was like 5 different things as part of one thing, then I don't think that would be allowed. But if it was a record player and a vinyl, I think that's okay.
Okay. Because it's really hard. Believe it or not, I'm not a very materialistic person. So I'm like, what can I take that are items? So a record player and probably just a copy of Dark Side of the Moon, Pink Floyd.
Yeah.
Because I could listen to that all day, every day. And then I'm really boring after that. I do not want a phone. If I'm stranded, good, leave me there. I'm staying there. I'm never coming back.
Yeah.
I'm on permanent leave. I'm AWOL. Someone could take the keys to the company. I'm good. No. I don't know. What would you take? I'm really interested to know what you would take as well, to throw it so we can both struggle on this segment.
Well, I'm assuming that it's, when I think of a deserted island, I think it's, somewhere really hot and sunny, and it's got, I burn really easily. I would need to bring something to cover myself up, or loads and loads of sun cream to last me forever, because I would just turn into a lobster. Like, I just wouldn't survive. So either something that I can like give myself shade, maybe like a very large umbrella. I don't,
I like
those
that.
golf umbrellas.
I like that.
Maybe that, but then I don't know. Umbrellas don't last forever, do they? So
no, they don't. But you could build with the leaves, maybe.
Yeah, there you go. Okay,
you're too practical. I was like, I don't know. I'm just gonna kill time, kick my feet up. I was like, maybe a bean bag, and probably some sangria, but unlimited lifetime supply of sangria, and then I'm chilling.
I think I'd want to take like, I wouldn't want to take my PC, but I might want to take like a PlayStation that has access to the internet. So I can play,
but not be contacted.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Maybe a PlayStation, an umbrella. I like the sangria shout.
Yeah, I like sangria just because you can eat the fruit. What sangria's got veg? You can eat the fruit, and it's somewhat healthy, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. Well, between us both, if we were on an island, we'd have a pretty good setup. So
Yeah, I think so. I
yeah,
think so.
nice.
Awesome.
The husband and dog aren't items, so they don't come. But
Yeah, I was like, would I want to take my cats? And I'm like, actually, no, they would hate it.
no, yeah,
They would
Darwin
hate
would
to
hate
be
it. Yeah,
on an island. So I'll just umbrella, PlayStations, and sangria. You're sorted.
love it, love it.
Awesome. Okay, well, let's round it out. Thank you so much for joining. Actually, do you want to plug anything? Where can people follow
Oh,
you?
yeah, sure. Hotdrop.gg for our website /portfolio. If you want to have a read up on any of the case studies of the amazing brands we're allowed to talk about at the moment, there is far more work that we do do completely white label internationally as well. And then on social, Hotdrop_GG on both Twitter and Instagram, although our Instagram isn't very much touched, but would appreciate a follow on LinkedIn if you can. We're trying to get to 1,000 followers on LinkedIn, and our head of Marcom's Keenan will be really pleased that I've plugged that and the website. And then Heather Dower on LinkedIn if you want to talk, basically. But thanks for having me as well. It's been a real honour to be a part of ESI and the content as always.
Awesome. And if anyone wants to find out more about university esports, you can go to nsc.gg and find out all about the wonderful world of esports at university and what our community is up to and the tournaments we're running. And of course, if you want to keep up to date on everything ESI for All, make sure you follow Esports Insider on social media. Or if you're on YouTube, you can subscribe to the channel there. I've been your host, Becky Wright, and thanks so much for watching.